You
Okay.
sound total. As long as you're cool with everything, I'm good over here on my end.
Yeah. I'm actually going to switch to gallery view so I can see us equally.
Okay.
There.
How do you say your last name?
Guadagnino.
Guadagnino.
So pretend the G in the middle is not there. Guadagnino.
Thank you. Whereabouts? I'm just curious. Whereabouts in Greece?
Kind of behind Athena High School, like off of like the English Road, Long Pond area.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I had a house off of Flynn for a while.
Okay.
And then I moved. Yeah. And then I moved to Penfield. But I went to Odyssey. That's the school I went to before it closed, Greece Odyssey. So I have your book here, but
thank you for buying it.
well, yeah, it's so cool. It's actually like, I mean, we'll get into it, but I just love how straightforward and simple, and all the quotes and all the examples. Like, I love reading a book that has, all that in there. First off, thank you for being on the podcast. There's one question I'll ask in the beginning that I ask everybody, so you know, and then at the end I'll ask you a couple of questions that I usually ask everybody too. Okay. But in between, it's just a conversation. Is that cool?
Okay. Yeah. That's
All
cool.
right. I love it. All right. So, Marilyn, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to ask you the question that I ask every single one of my guests. Right now in your life today, what makes your heart just sing out loud when you wake up in the morning for the day? Like, what is it that gets you just going and your heart just beating out of your chest?
You mean when I start my day?
Just, yeah. So when you
broke
wake
up
up
there for a second. Yeah.
Oh, I broke up?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay. Hold on.
Just for a second. Yeah.
That's not good. Here, we'll start over. Okay. My internet's okay.
Okay.
When you wake up in the morning, what is it that day just makes you so like ready for the day to take it on, and just makes your heart just beat out of your chest, just sing for the day? Like, what is it about your day that does that for you?
Nature. Every morning I have a routine, most mornings, of getting up like at 5 and walking my dogs. And so I'm out there outside at dawn, so I see the sky change every morning, and every morning is different. And I watch it go from dark to light. And it really, I adore it because it's different every single morning. And I actually take photos of it every morning when I can, because it's just as gorgeous, the colors and everything, and hearing the birds wake up. And so it's a great way to start my day because everything's quiet and you can just commune with nature. Yeah.
Awesome. And for people listening that aren't familiar, Marilyn, with yourself, give us a little, we're going to talk about her book, The Living Stress-Free Bible, and some other stuff inside of it, but give us, the audience, just a little background about, what you're up to these days.
Well, by the way, is this the actual podcast, or you're just getting me ready for it?
No, this is the podcast. We're recording. We're off and running.
Sorry. Just wasn't sure. So what I'm up to lately. So I work full time over at an outpatient clinic connected with Strong, and so at Strong Ties, and I've been there for, actually, 2 days ago was my 29th anniversary working there, so 29 years. And I work with the chronic mentally ill population, so people with very serious mental illness, and it's an outpatient clinic. And so I have a caseload, and I also do a Zoom group with them, and I'm basically a psychotherapist with them, but my background's in music therapy. So I throw in a little music therapy when I can, and my Zoom group I do with my patients there is a music therapy group. So
music
that's
therapy.
my main job.
Yeah.
Yes, music therapy, which usually you don't hear as much with the psychiatric population. You usually hear it more used with the elderly, with geriatrics, Alzheimer's, or people use it with kids a lot, obviously, because music and children go hand in hand, but you don't hear as much used with the psychiatric population. But that's my love, finding a way to help it's people with depression, anxiety, and more serious mental illnesses find peace and change their mood and be in a mindful state using music.
Interesting. So 72 episodes in and music therapy hasn't come up yet. I love when like something else is new that hasn't come up about, you know, mindfulness techniques, mindfulness ways to help make us better, right? So what is, I guess I don't even know what question to ask around that, but what, like, is it talking and music? Is it just sitting there putting some headphones on, listening to something specific that you created, or is it how does it work? A little bit.
All of the above. The basic use of music therapy is you find it's all based around the goal you have for the person you're working with. So you figure out what the goal is. And let's say the goal is person is so distracted by their mind, they just cannot concentrate. And so then you develop some kind of music therapy activity. So it's a discipline profession that's really based on creativity constantly. You're constantly coming up with, okay, how can I use music to help this person? And so sometimes it's through making music together with them. You give them an instrument, you may do improv together, let's say drumming, because anybody can hit a drum, you know, it's something.
Sure.
Sometimes it's songwriting with them that, you know, they tell you what they're feeling and the music therapist then creates a song with them so they can hear their feelings being demonstrated in a musical way, which makes it much more powerful and activates other parts of the brain. Sometimes it's my specialty with it is using music for mindfulness. So we'll create the music using instruments that really bring you to your center. So I like using singing bowls and flute and chimes and different things like that, and to help, because mindfulness, as you well know, your podcast is around this, is becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger thing. And I think everybody's realizing how helpful it is. And for people with mental health issues, it's extremely helpful. But music gives them a way that they can grasp it that's a little easier than just, let's just talk about mindfulness. Here we experience it.
Yeah.
So it's a little listening, a little making music yourselves, and just it just helps shift people's mood for sure. So.
Yeah. It reminds me kind of when I do, sorry, there was some echo, but it reminds me of when I do some guided meditation. Sometimes the first like 5 minutes or 10 minutes will be music in the background, some soft music while I'm, and it does, sometimes I enjoy it because it brings me deeper into, you know, stillness. And then they'll shut the music off as you do like a mantra or some towards the end. But yeah, that's really cool. You said that, you know, as mindfulness becomes more and more prevalent and people talking about meditation more, you and your husband Lou started living stress-free in 2011, correct?
Correct.
You guys are
yes.
like ahead of the game by 9 years, I think. Did something happen in life, or was there always seems to be, you know, a lot of times, especially someone that goes that level and creates, you know, a whole business around it. Was there something traumatic that happened, or something like that shifted you and wanted to go that route in life?
That's a great question. So my husband also worked with me. I'm still there. He's retired from there at Strong Ties. So we both were with the mental health community. And he also is very much, his life is around meditation and the yogic practices. And he started at 13 years old.
Wow.
Learning about it, practicing it, studying from real masters and gurus. So it has been his life. And he suffers from childhood trauma and has PTSD. And it's this main thing that's really helped his symptoms. And he was able to live still does, a full successful life because of what he learned from meditation. So it's always been part of his life. And in us both working with a mentally ill population of people that suffer, we both noticed that using these kind of Eastern ideas and mindfulness and meditation and yogic ideas would help those people so much more than a lot of the just basic treatment they get. But we were kind of stuck because that's not the model used at the medical model. So we wanted to branch out and do something, given our skills working with people with depression and anxiety, and his great knowledge with meditation and yoga, which I then jumped on when we got together, and it became my life as well. And we just thought, this is so great. This can help anybody, not only people at, the chronic mental ill, it just, everybody has stress. Everybody's walking around with something going on that makes them feel anxious or depressed. And we just thought, we have this ability to take this knowledge and knowing how the mind works, working in the field for so many years, to help everybody. So we said, let's just do it. Let's just start a business for the regular person walking down the street who has a lot of stress. But yeah, I think you said we were on the mindfulness, wagon early on. I think with his doing this since, for God, 50 years of his life, whatever, it's what he does. So, so we both do it, and it's been really great. So I know I'm talking a little roundabout here, but we try and make these practices secular, even though we learn them in a more spiritual way, and there is a spiritual component to mindfulness practices. We're trying to reach the masses, so we present it in a more secular way, so that hopefully it's there for like anybody that is just wanting to be more in the moment and less stressed every day.
Right. It doesn't have to be based around a religion.
Correct.
Okay. Is that because, are you guys like Buddhists, or do you guys practice a specific Zen or anything like that?
Both of us do not identify ourselves with any religion per se. We're both very spiritual, and I guess it's hard to say. I mean, Lou is very attached to Buddhism, but he would not consider himself necessarily a Buddhist, because that's people see it as a defined religion. Even Buddhist, it's not a religion. It actually is not a religion, but people see it that way. So we don't actually identify with the religion, but very closely tied to Buddhism, but also a lot of, I call them yogic practices, a lot of Hinduism based on yogic practices, but Hinduism kind of sometimes takes a more doctrine stance on it, so rather call it yogic practices. And we also embrace a lot of Taoist practices. The whole idea of life balance is big in what Living Stress Free teaches people. My book's all about. So the awareness of meditation and mindfulness, and the balance of Taoism. So
awesome. You explained that. Great. That was cool. After this question, I'm going to go right into some things in your book I want to talk about, because I think that could really be beneficial for people that are listening right now. But first, I'm just curious what your meditation practice looks like today. How does it work? What do you do?
Okay. That's a great question. So we developed what we call LSF meditation, Living Stress Free Meditation, which is taking the essence of a lot of the practices we've done through the years and simplified it into what is the easiest for people. So basically it's no concentration. You're not concentrating on any one thing. You're not concentrating on the breath or a sound or a flame or whatever. It's just practicing pure awareness. It's non-directive mindfulness meditation basically, but it's you sit and you just feel your breath without controlling it. You feel your body, do body scan, noticing your body without changing anything. You listen to the sounds coming and going without trying to alter or change that. You don't introduce any sounds in. And you allow yourself to notice your thoughts. You're not trying to get away from your thoughts. You're not trying to distract yourself. You're not trying to change your thoughts. You're just noticing them coming and going. And so it is basically non-directive mindfulness, but that's all you do. So it's basically the four things: breath, body, sounds, thoughts, and you connect with the awareness part of you. And what it does is you notice that everything in life is transitory. Absolutely everything's going to come and go, except for awareness. Awareness is the only constant there ever is. So the practice gets you more familiar with awareness, And then you realize you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, you are the awareness that's experiencing your thoughts and feelings. So that's the practice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, meditation, right? It's like, it's cultivating our ability to witness, right? To be aware. And that sounds exactly, that's cool. How long do you do it for? Like for yourself in the morning? Is it a 15-minute, 25-minute, hour, 2 hours?
I try for 20 minutes, 15
Yep.
to
Okay.
20 minutes. It doesn't have to be super long. If you have Lou and I sometimes would have a retreat day, so we could take a day where we just like practice meditation
Mm.
and read the scriptures and, being mindful all day. And days like that, you might do it longer. But as a normal everyday practice, we try to model what we teach other people to do. And you really only need like 20 minutes. The best is 20 minutes twice a day. It's hard to always fit that in, but if you can put twice a day, you're golden, because you can watch. It's not like, I think and I know you understand this because this is your thing as well, but it's not an immediate result. It's not like taking a pill and then, oh, my headache's gone. It's cumulative. So if you did it every day and twice a day, excellent. You'll just notice in time that, wow, I can drive on the road and somebody could cut me off and it really doesn't bother me. Or somebody gets mad at me about something that wasn't true. That's their problem, not mine. Things just roll off you, but it's because of the daily practice.
Yeah.
So.
I love that you said that, because I'm always trying to push like, all right, we have to get more people to meditate at least 10 minutes in the morning, and then we can add a second one later if we have to, but like at least start there. And so I love that you said that. David G, one of my mentors, he's actually the one that I took my meditation teacher training from. Are you familiar with David G at all? No, there's a lot of meditation teachers out there, but he, you were saying a couple of things that I wanted. He was all about reading. He reads the Bhagavad Gita every day. Is that one of the texts that you read? I'm curious because you mentioned some ancient texts. Is that one of them, or do you have other ones that you read?
I love it. If I was on a desert island, I was only allowed one book, it would be the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, come on. All right. I need to tap into it a little bit more then, because I have it sitting there and I'm like, I have to get it. Okay, cool. I'm so glad you said that. I think that was a sign.
It's my favorite spiritual text. It's my very favorite.
Do you have?
You could reread that book the rest of your life, and each time it will unfold a new realization.
Mm-hmm. And you can buy like 10 different translations of it too, right? And like,
there's lots of translations of it,
what is one, do you have a favorite passage from it, or, a top 5 or whatever? Or teaching from it?
I can't recite a passage because my mind never works that way. I'm not good at remembering quotes, but my favorite teaching from it is Karma Yoga, where I do have a quote, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you have a right to action alone, not the fruits of your actions.
I love that.
And that has become a way of life for me. And in my private practice with the clients I work with, I often bring that up. And the whole idea, it's the process that's important, not the product. And if you truly practiced, you have a right to action alone, not the fruits, you would be practicing mindfulness, because you would be so much into the process of doing something. When you look at the result, your mind is shooting into the future and you're out of the present. You're deciding how you want it to be, and you've lost your moments. So that's
so good.
Is very favorite. It's called Karma Yoga. Yeah.
That's so good. I love that. On page 22 of your book, this is such a good segue, by the way. You talk about attachment, which kind of goes with like the fruits of our labor, right? Getting attached to the results, right? Mm-hmm. Along that, it can be. And I wanted to read and then have you elaborate and tell us what a better answer is, right? So you talk about grasping is not a quality to judge. It is a natural tendency of the mind. If you let go of the destination on the grasping and attachment road, you will see it's the same road regardless of the destination or the situation. So all human beings have attachment, grasping, desiring, wanting, and clinging as a process in the mind. This can be a stress-producing process because you can never have everything you want, and you can never hold on to that which you have forever. So everything, and you actually said this earlier, everything is transitory, right?
Yes.
So, and then I'm going to say this quote here because it was so good. The Sufi mystic poet Rumi wrote, "If you want something, release the wish and let it light on its desire, completely free of the personal." So instead of getting attached to the attachment road, like how do we, like, what is a technique or what can we do to free ourselves a little bit from that?
To free yourself from the, now here's the tricky part.
Yeah.
The mind will always, for us to be alive, the ego has to be at work, and our ego gets into the grasping and attachment, the resisting and aversion, or the ignoring. The ego does all three of those, our ego. And so you have to have some level of grasping and attachment to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the whole quest to be stress-free or to reach enlightenment is a desire. It's an attachment. So the secret is not to stop being attached, because then you would just sit there and do nothing. You have to grasp. You're hungry. You have to grasp and go get your food, stuff. So it's not to get rid of that behavior. It's to see it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
To just realize that, it's sitting like, it's sitting in this, I say this in my book, it's sitting in that space between the three, between grasping and attachment, between resisting and not liking things, and between ignoring things. You could hang out in that space in between and watch yourself do the three, with kind of one foot in the grasping and one foot in the awareness. That, so you do what you do, but you're aware that you're doing it. That's really the secret, because that awareness keeps you grounded in the reality that this is all temporary, and there's part of me that's just watching this all, and there's part of me, that awareness part is always chill, it's always calm, it's always loving, it's always just okay. And if you keep one foot there, you can be as attached as you want to things, but part of you is always grounded. So that's the balance between the two, because it's really impossible not to be attached. And that's a misconception when people like start reading about these Eastern ideas, and that idea is a Buddhist idea. It's the three poisons in Buddhism: is grasping, resisting, and ignoring. It's a classic Buddhist teaching, so that's where it comes from. Yeah. But people that read that and they don't understand the nuances of these great ancient ideas, they will misinterpret it, and they'll just say, well, you can't not have a desire towards anything. And that's not the point. You're gonna, but just know you're doing it when you're doing it, with full awareness.
Yes, the witnessing it, being aware. Sense? Yeah, that makes total sense. It reminds me of it reminds me of the idea of when you try to be, for someone like me, to give you a little quick background, and my audience knows this, but like I was super selfish for many years, typical male, single, was super selfish. Now I have 2 kids and a wife. When you, and so what I've tried to do over the past couple of years is be selfless, right? Like try to give more, try to be better for others more. But in that process of actually trying to do and do that more, I'm actually becoming selfish. It's a weird concept, right? At the same, I'm doing it selfishly because I'm trying to accomplish that, right? If you can, I'm trying to explain exactly what you did too in a different way.
Right.
So instead of that, what I need to do is be more aware of when I am being selfish and recognize it, and also be aware of when I'm being selfless and recognize it and appreciate it, so that I can shift more towards that place where I want to be, instead of like forcing it and pushing it all the time and that, right? Is that kind of
exactly? And I would add another layer to that. Yes. And be careful not to make any kind of judgment towards selfish, because we can see something as selfish and that has a negative connotation, or you could see it as, I'm honoring my needs. And that doesn't have a negative connotation.
Right.
But the same thing, I just beware of any judgment towards anything that you're doing with good intention. Never ever judge. This is like also one of the things we work with our clients on all the
Yeah,
time. In fact, I
that's
make it a
beautiful.
practice to not even think of things as good or bad. They are just helpful or challenging. These words mean a lot. The connotation of words can really cause this whole chain reaction in our mind and increase our stress. And then we get mad at ourselves and we get into guilt and shame and all these feelings that are very disempowering and just add to our stress and add to our stress. So yeah, I think if everybody kind of replaced these judgmental words with more neutral words, it's a tiny little shift, but it makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
You know,
Marilyn. Yeah.
yeah, it's like your wife's a yoga teacher, and
Right.
I know when I've done yoga in the past, yoga's like that. You could be holding an asana, and the teacher can come over and just move your arm like half an inch, and suddenly you're like, oh wow, that made a huge difference. I can now hold this position. I can feel my body energy. Same way with the mind. All we have to do with words, semantics, is shift a word or shift our attitude towards a word, and suddenly everything looks different. It's that's what I'm trying to teach people in the book, and what Lou and I are trying to teach with Living Stress Free. There's little things like that. So
Yeah, that makes, I mean, that makes so much sense, because even when you think it's not affecting you, it really is tapping into your subconscious level, right? When you're saying those things, if you're constantly saying, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm an idiot again. Oh, I'm an idiot," like that starts to tap,
oh
which is a
yeah,
common thing that people like. Being, yeah, doing this and meditate. You're more aware when people do these things more and more, right? So
mm-hmm.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so one technique I actually read, it was from this guy, Kyle Cease, adding the words "and I love that" at the end of statements. If you find yourself like doing that, so like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot, and I love that,"
uh,
so that you can have more compassion around it and realize that you're saying these things.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
um,
beautiful. I like that a lot.
yeah. So because we're humans, we're gonna say things, and then you have to go, "Oh, you know what?" And I love that. So let's go to this living stress free. So to recap, kind of what Marilyn was saying, there's three, when her book goes around this. There's three tendencies that lead to experiencing stress reactions, and that's grasping, resisting, and ignoring. And that's what we've been talking about here. So on page
Yeah.
38, hold on here,
Okay.
let's go. I know you memorize exactly what's on every page of your book, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
38 talks about escapism. Uh,
Yes.
and I must not have highlighted why I wanted to come here, but like, can you elaborate more on this? Because there was a reason why, the allure of escapism, why I focused on this, but I didn't highlight where I wanted to talk about it.
No, I can. I'm sure it'll come up in what I say about it.
Yes.
This is one of my pet peeves about a lot of the kitchen sink normal advice people give to reduce stress. They're always distraction techniques. It's always about just distracting yourself from what you're stressed about. And hey, I get it. If you're in an extreme stress situation, let's say you just had somebody very close to you died and you are very upset. Yeah, distraction is good when you're extremely stressed. But normally speaking, it is not going to do anything. And it really drives me crazy, because it's one of the main things people, you pull out a blog or something and they say, oh, well, just, do this, this, and this. It's temporary. They're Band-Aid fixes. And that's
Mm,
what I call escapism. You're just escaping from what's happening. So let's say, I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say you're in a job you hate, and every day you're going to work and you can't stand your boss and you can't stand the actual work you do and everything. And so to cope with it, all you do is go home and just watch, mind dumbing television, or, you just maybe get lost in gaming, whatever,
right.
and just escape from it. And then you go back the next day. So that's never going to solve your problem. And your stress is always going to stay there, because if you take a temporary break from your stress through distraction and escaping, you're coming back to it every time. And so I don't think I'm always looking for solutions that are sustainable. And to me, escapism is not at all sustainable, because you can't just keep escaping the rest of your life. I mean, I guess if you're super rich, you could.
It might not be the healthiest thing, but if you
Every time something's wrong, you can get in your private plane and go somewhere. But most of us don't live that way. But anyway, so I think that was that where you were going with the
yeah, that's what I wanted that topic to come up, because I think that's important. A lot of people, looking what I think I highlighted it for was looking on the outside to for answers when kind of they're on the inside, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, it reminds me of a quote I was reading or a passage I read when you talked about unless you're rich, right? Very rarely do Buddhists go to rich guys to become happy. It's the rich people that go to Buddhists to become happy, to find happiness, right? So that's yeah.
The other thing about escapism, and that's a little bit of a pet peeve for me, is meditation, because there's lots of ways to meditate. All right, there's lots of forms of meditation, and when I got into it through my husband, I met my husband Lou, and it was his life. So I, of course, let me find out about this. It's something that's important to him, and I gravitated to it. But his rule about meditation is always learn authentic, real paths that have been there for forever. And we're that way about everything. If we're going to teach something, it's all based on real knowledge and wisdom that's out there. It always has to be real, like centuries old, ancient, authentic paths. Yeah. So my point about meditation is a lot of people kind of they've turned meditation into escapism. So
interesting. Yeah,
and I'm going to say this not as a judgment at all about guided imagery, but I think guided imagery is helpful as a relaxation technique. But in my opinion, it's not going to get you anywhere where true meditation will. Because, so for example, if you take someone and you have them relax and close their eyes and picture going to a beach and walking down the beach and all that, relaxing, yes. Get your mind off things, yes. Totally escapism. It's a temporary fix. They're going to go back to their life and it still is stressful. But people are mistaking that as meditation, and it's not. It's a relaxation technique. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate that. I do. A lot of times, if I'm going to lead somebody through an imagery like that, I'll end with a 5-minute meditation. I don't like to end because I think the meditation portion where you actually are just quiet or focusing on a mantra or just focusing on your breath or whatever, or just witnessing your thoughts come in and out. That's the most important piece of what meditation's all about, right? Right. I think when adding everything else, a gratitude practice and intention in your meditation, all that stuff that people have done over the years, I think it's really important to, after you do that, is to have the meditation portion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually never been brought up on this podcast before. So cool. So I'm so glad you did. Maybe people were afraid to talk about it. So thanks.
And I don't mean it as a judgment. I really don't. But it's a misinterpretation. Because I meet people, I say, oh, well, I teach meditation. And they say, oh, yeah, I meditate. Oh, well, what's your practice? And it's one of those things. Oh, I just picture myself walking through the woods. And no. So I just nod. Yeah. That's nice. And I walk away.
Right. I did have Jason Campbell on here. He's from, oh gosh, why can't I think of it right now? Mind Valley. Have you heard of Mind Valley?
Sounds very familiar.
Yes, they do a lot in like the mindfulness. They have courses, tons of courses on their site. But he was talking about how we were talking about this subject, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't really consider it meditation. It's a great thing to do, but I think meditation is a separate subject." So 55 on page 55 of your book here. Are you ready? Here we go. Guys, I really seriously, this, like the cover, let's be honest, I mean, it's just very simple. It's not going to catch your eye in a bookstore or on Amazon, but it is start reading it and it catches your brain and your body. So I just made that up, but it's true.
Amen. That's great. I was actually simplicity with the cover, so yeah.
No, I'm not. No judgment. Yeah. It just.
Yes, touche.
You know, 20 techniques to make your life less stressful, and truly, it's not just like, oh, do this, oh, do this. And as you read it, it has stories, real life examples from your practice, from your therapy practice. It has quotes from movies, from spiritual leaders. I mean, it's really good. It's a very well written, well put out book. So yeah, without tooting your horn anymore here, let's go back to the so I'm all about aha moments, right? So when we're doing a podcast and I'm like, oh, that's such an aha moment. I love that. And when I read this quote, I was like, damn, how have I never read this before? So it's Annihilate the Worry Wart, chapter 11. In 2015 Cold War thriller, Bridge of Spies, James Donovan, a Brooklyn lawyer, asked Rudolph Abel, a convicted spy, do you ever worry? Abel replies, would it help? And that is just, if you sit with that, do you ever worry? And he answers, would it help? It's just such a, wow, that's, wow. I don't even know how to keep going from there. So why don't you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Oh, yeah. And actually, did you see that movie where he does that? I don't know if you saw that movie.
No.
That movie was my aha moment when I saw the movie, and I'm like, oh my God. I immediately wrote it down. I said, I got to put that in something, and eventually made its way into the book because, I work with so many people with worries, anxieties, nervousness, whatever you want to call it, all falls under that category of anxiety in all forms. And they are tortured by it. And it really it does not do any good whatsoever. And that quote is so true. Would it help? No, because, so this is what happens. So our mind, I describe in the book, and I know you saw it, that our mind's like this big bubble machine. Okay, it's got a function. Our brain just has this function where it just churns out thoughts. And I pictured it like this big industrial bubble machine that you might have on a stage production, and all these bubbles are coming out of it. And the bubbles are our thoughts, and they just come and go, and they come and go. And some bubbles are really fascinating, so you hang on to them longer, but they do eventually pop or they go away. And the fluid, the bubbles are being made from completely our past. So every thought we ever have is from our past. It's just being recycled into our awareness. You challenge anyone to come up. You cannot come up with a thought that isn't from the past. Okay?
Even if it's 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Past.
Yeah, it's still past. Yeah. In fact, that's like great meditation teachers, they'll always laugh about this. You're sitting, you're meditating, you're in the moment, and once you have that thought, oh my God, this is so nice, you're now in the past. That's a past thought, because this is so nice is now in the past, because time is constantly moving forward. The moment you make a narrative or commentary on it, it's gone. And so even that's in the past. When you're truly, truly, truly in the present, there's no thoughts, because every thought is already from the past, because time keeps going. So where I'm getting at with this is worry is, if all our thoughts are from the past and there's a future event coming up we're worried about, it's because these past thoughts are jumping over the present, going into the future, and scaring us all. Oh, it's going to be just like before, what if it happens like it did before? Or maybe you saw on a news feed or a movie or whatever, something bad happened to somebody. Now that's in your memory, and that's jumping into the future. So that's how people get caught in this worry cycle, because it's their mind that's pulling out the past and throwing it into the future as possibilities, and people get fixated on it.
So let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question on that. So you have, you've worked with a lot of clients. I'm sure that's the number one: stress, anxiety, worry. That's like the number one thing, right?
Absolutely.
And we have 70,000 plus thoughts a day. So that totally makes sense.
Yes.
When you, everybody has different personalities, right? Have you ever dove into the Enneagram? Have you heard of that at all? Enneagram test?
Yeah, but I haven't, yeah, I
Okay.
haven't experienced it.
The reason I'm bringing it up, my wife is like super into it right now, right? And it's
Uh-huh.
everybody has a different personality type. You're a type
Right.
3, type 5. I'm a 7, and I have somebody coming on that specializes in this in a couple weeks.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, I want to dive more into it because it's really interesting. It tells you exactly about you, like who you are, and then it says now work on that shit, like the stuff that that's not. So there's a lot of worry and stress involved in certain numbers. People's personality. So everybody has a different personality. And I know you know that we're as a therapist.
Yeah.
When you
Yes. Yeah.
work with these personalities that have more tendency to worry more, are you able to see a shift in them eventually, or are they able to get rid of that and be way less of a worry wart? Should you say?
That's a great question. And I have seen a shift and people progress and people actually dramatically stop worrying if they do the practices. The
Mm,
number one reason people don't get better is they may try the meditation or try one of the other things I suggest in my book, and they don't keep doing it. They try it a couple times, say, oh yeah, I felt better, and then it doesn't become a priority in their life, and they go back to taking care of the rest of their life, and they put it on the back burner, they stop doing it, and then they come to me and say, I just can't stop worrying. But those that did actually change that trajectory and actually become more of a chill person actually did the practices every day.
mm.
And so, it's only 10 to 20 minutes a day. And think about what you do in 20 minutes a day, not to get, there's so many things that just 20 minutes and that's all, we really can do it. But so it's
Yeah.
a lack of prioritizing that
Mm,
but the people that did, I had people with panic attacks, like, you know, 8 to 10 a week that started doing the non-directive mindfulness meditation, the meditation
yeah.
we teach. And seriously, over just a few months, it like completely within 6 months, it's gone. Now,
Right.
disclaimer, I'm not saying this is that way for everybody,
Right.
but for a lot of people, their anxiety way reduced just from doing the practice every day. That's the secret.
Yeah,
So
you mentioned priorities. There's a good quote about, and I don't know the exact quote. I'm like you, I can't like remember exact passages. I can get the gist of it, uh,
yeah.
but it was about like when you say you don't have time, it just means you're not prioritizing it. That's all. That's all that means.
Mhm.
So you're like last night. I'll admit it. I don't care to admit it because every now and then I do it. I got lost on TikTok for literally 1 hour. Like I'm not exaggerating. All of a sudden I looked up and it was an hour gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I looked up every now and then. I was like, okay, I'll pick up my book and start reading in 10 minutes. And then 20 minutes later, and then I still did it. And I got lost in it. Right. And it was because I was prioritized. If somebody said to me, and then if I said today, like, oh, I don't have time to read. No, I was on TikTok for an hour last night. I could have taken 20 minutes of that and read a book, read some book. You know what I mean? So it's just about prioritizing. So I'm
It
glad
is
you.
about priority, and that's complicated. I mean, I'll go as far to say, I'll probably get myself in trouble for this, but I actually think that's the biggest problem with ADHD. A lack of knowing how to prioritize your thoughts.
Mm,
So many thoughts, get distracted, get distracted, get distracted. And that's seeing every thought as equal, but they're not all equal. First of all, they're all thoughts, so they're all from your past and they're all coming and going. But if you have a thought like, oh, I have to go walk my dog because my dog has to go to the bathroom, that's an important thought. But if you immediately then have a thought, oh yeah, I want to check out TikTok or whatever, that's not as important. But that inability to decide what's a priority thought is a big problem for people with racing thoughts,
mm,
but even people without let's not diagnose, just the regular person. We have busy
right.
lives. We are inundated with things we have to do, and an inability to prioritize our thoughts, even let alone our actions,
Yeah.
is a big problem.
Yeah, and Marilyn, I'll tell you what. Look, for everybody listening, I'll say this here. So this morning I woke up. I I meditate every single morning for the past almost 2 years. And, there's been a few mornings before I went through my teaching where I didn't do it. But this morning I got a late start. We had our front redone. So we have like all these new plants in front of our house and they need to be watered this morning. So normally when I would have got up at 6:15, meditated, read a little bit, I actually was like, oh, I forgot this morning. I'm like, oh, I have to water the plants. And then I had a 7:30 with my trainer, my workout trainer that I just got. So I was like, okay, I have to water the plants. I literally did not have time to sit down and meditate. And after I worked out, after I went to the trainer, and then I went to the Lowe's to get a new mailbox because that was on the plan today. In the parking lot at Lowe's, because I started feeling, I'm like, I literally, and this sounds cheesy or whatever you want to say, like I literally felt like my day started getting a hold of me and taking me away instead of me getting a hold of my day, which is like normally my feeling almost every day. And I literally started feeling like, oh my God. And that's because I didn't meditate this morning, I think. So in the parking lot, I just turned on Spotify meditation music and just did if you ever did just follow my breath to the infinity sign. It's a really cool thing to do if anybody ever wants to try it. Like picture the infinity sign and just follow your breath to it. Have you done that before, Marilyn?
No, but I've heard of that, but I haven't actually tried it. So I'm going to try that.
It's very calming, relaxed. It was a quick technique. And I did a 9-minute in the car. And then I went to Lowe's and my day's been completely different since.
And thank you for sharing that story, because I think people sometimes forget you can meditate anywhere. You can, like, we have a friend that said when he'd do like a Chinese food order and be waiting in the parking lot for it to be ready, he just sit there and meditate. And he said, oh, 15 minutes, perfect. You can do this. You can find the time. It's just a matter of deciding that it's important in your life. And I can't say, and I know you dedicate this podcast to this, I can't say enough. It's the crux of my private practice. Anybody that meets with me for therapy privately, I have them all meditate. And some of them that just cannot tolerate sitting meditation. I know there's some people that can't, and that's cool. I teach them walking meditation, things you can movement relate. There's movement meditation that is a perfectly fine substitute for people that aren't ready to just sit with themselves.
Right. And eventually, usually probably what happens with those clients is they end up moving to trying a sitting and liking it, right? It's just a matter of where they want to start. And cool. There's one more before we get too off track, and because there's about 15 minutes left here. I wanted to go to page 69. Everybody loves I guess I shouldn't say a blanket statement like everybody. Most people love the movie Wizard of Oz. I think you know where I'm going with this, right? I have to read this part because this is another really cool thing. This is chapter 13. Can you truly be happy? Which is the question everybody, can I really be happy? In 1939 movie, The Wizard of Oz, Glinda the Good Witch tells Dorothy, you don't need to be helped any longer. You've always had the power to go back to Kansas. The Scarecrow then says, then why didn't you tell her before? And Glinda says, she wouldn't have believed me. She had to learn it for herself. Scarecrow asks Dorothy, what have you learned? Dorothy says, if I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look any further than my own backyard, because if it isn't there, I never really lost it to begin with. Like,
I know. It's beautiful.
It is so beautiful, and I never was aware of it in the movie. Probably the million times my daughter has seen it and I've seen it, but that is so good. Explain that. Now explain it.
Well, the ultimate, and what she's really saying is happiness is from within. It's not, we look for it externally, but no matter what it is that we think is causing our happiness, it has to be happening here. That's just reflecting back to us. And this is huge with people. And I'm going to go, right to the heart, the crux. You find a person that you love and you feel love when you're with them. It's not that person is causing you, the love is coming from you. They are just a mirror. They're just reflecting back to you what's already in your heart. And that's huge for people in relationships, because if you're in a relationship that ends and then you feel like that love is gone, it was in you. It's just that person reflected, it's still in you. It wasn't them that caused it and now they're gone and you'll never feel love again. It's inside of you, and everything is that way. So happiness exists inside of us. And so I think that's the main underlying point of what Dorothy said. And I also think, now that you said it, at this time period when so many people are stuck at home, it's extra important because, to take it a little literally, I mean, if I can't find happiness in my own home, and in my work with clients, so many of them are renewing their feelings for their family and their home. And you talk to people who help renovate or fix homes, business is booming. People, and I find myself, I've fallen in love with my house again. I just love it in a whole new way because I'm home with it. So it's just being in my own inner circle of space with my little family in my home. I am experiencing a lot more happiness because I'm in it all the time and I appreciate it. So
yeah, you know what, she went on the journey in that movie. She went on the journey to find that answer, that quote right there. I mean, that's so powerful. And in our own lives, sometimes we have to go on a journey to find that inside of us and find where it is and bring it out, right? It doesn't just happen overnight a lot of times.
Yeah, and the other part of that quote is that she had to find out for herself.
Right.
Glenn says that. And that also is a huge point in what I teach people, is that so many times somebody will come to me and say, I feel so bad that I wasn't able to help this person and they're upset, or I feel so bad whenever I'm the cause of somebody getting upset. And I'm always reminding them, we never grow and progress as human beings from our good times. We only grow and progress from our challenging times. And so if anybody listening feels bad that you were somehow the cause of somebody else feeling bad, they need to feel bad for them to grow and progress on their personal journey. And if we save everybody from suffering, we're also stopping everybody from growing. And that's the point of life. You just progress. You just keep evolving as a person, and you need to have your hard times. You need to feel bad. You need to struggle. There's no way out of it. So, I coach people, if they feel bad about that, that person has to go through that, and you're helping them. It's a shift. Yeah. It's like the yoga asana, you shift a little, just shifting a little. So that's also kind of in that, there's a lot in that Wizard of Oz quote.
Yeah, it's more like, yeah, it's really cool. You can go into it and look into it a lot. And by the way, thank you for sharing that. To make a little funny out of that. So it's okay if I get my wife mad at me. It's just her opportunity to grow. I don't have to feel bad about it.
Ultimately, yes. But
you just gave me an excuse, Marilyn. Thank you.
Staying out of that one.
Oh man, I have to ask you about the table behind you, because this whole time it's in the back and I see Buddha. I see is this like a quiet table? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I have my gong on it,
yeah.
And the gong comes in handy for if I'm doing I'm Zooming a lot with my clients, and sometimes we do a little meditating together. So I use the gong for that.
Can we hear it?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Awesome. That actually comes in really good too from that distance.
Did it came through?
Yeah.
All right.
Really
So the gong, the Buddha's there. Next to Buddha's Krishna. I have a special fondness for Krishna. Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
He also is always playing the flute, and I'm a flute player. And I got my flute there that I also use for meditation. And so yeah,
Oh, nice.
that's just a little Zen area.
Yeah, I
But
love that. Um,
yeah,
did you just decide to make that on your own, or did something inspire you?
it just kind of happened.
Yeah, it happened. Okay.
Just moving furniture around, because with zooming all the time, as you're I'm sure doing a
Sure.
lot more than you used to, you kind of, I've turned this room into the Zoom room. So yeah.
Nice, nice. That flute, I'll just say, like, it reminds me the fact that you have a flute there. I don't know who said it, Sophie or something, like a poet. Anyway, they were talking about how you're just a hole in the flute when it comes to love. You're just like allowing the love to come into you, go out of you, and you're just a hole in the flute of life.
Mhm. That's
It's a really
beautiful.
cool little, yeah. I don't say it as beautiful as it should be, but it's a very beautiful image. Anyway, so I want to ask you a question at the end here. This is the final thing. Thank you so much for everything today. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you for asking me to do this. This is wonderful. I really
Um,
appreciate it.
so if you could go back, Marilyn, and tell your 18-year-old self any words of advice, and your 18-year-old self would listen, what would you say to her?
What would I tell my 18-year-old self?
Yes, yes.
I would say live each day to the fullest, because tomorrow's promised to no one.
Thank you.
I use that phrase a lot, and I don't see it as a negative, morose thing. I see it as, if we really make the best out of each day, that's the way to live. Each day is like a new opportunity to do our best and spread love and enjoy each moment. And it's a practice. Everything's a practice. You have to really practice mindfulness, not as a, oh yeah, I got to remember to do that mindfulness thing, not as a concept, but as a feeling. Feel the moment
Yeah.
every day. Feel the moment, and you will stay more in the flow of it if you think of it as a feeling and not a concept.
Yeah. Thank you. When you said that, it reminded me of, like, when I'm doing something where I'm not the best version of myself and I know it, and I'm like, you're not being the best version of yourself right now, in my mind. And I have to shift that so that, because tomorrow's not promised. So let's not be that
Yeah,
person we don't want to, who, doesn't make us who we want to
yeah,
be. Cool.
yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marilyn. I'm going to press stop here now. And